Hi, I'm Lisa Wisner, the host of PowerUp Hero. PowerUp Hero is a podcast all about living a powered up life. Because let's face it, living your best life and juggling a busy workload, that can be close to impossible. I found hundreds and hundreds of PowerUp life hacks and systems that will help you automate your life and be time smart. So instead of spending your time, you're using it to actualize your potential. And I'm so excited for you to join me on my podcast, PowerUp Hero, so you can power up your life to live to your fullest potential.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Wisner, and I am so excited to be the host of this show, Power Up Hero. But I'm even more excited because I have a co-host. What's going on, Megan? How's it going?
We're back. I
know, we're back. Oh my gosh, Megan. I have missed you so much. I know there's been so much going on. You've had a lot of stuff going on, and I've had a lot of stuff going on. But I've missed you on the show. There's something to be said about Megan's presence on the Power Up Hero show.
I've missed you guys. There's something about this entire show that energizes me for the rest of the weekend and going into the work week even. So I'm so glad to be back and putting it back in my routine and getting ready to power up.
Well, I am excited because I don't know if you've met our guest today, but you've been part of the process of bringing together the community that I met this person from. So just to give y'all a little sneak peek, today we are celebrating and shedding a spotlight on Reverend Tracey Anderson-Tellado. And we're most excited, Megan, because you, Megan, are part of our TEDx community here in Corpus Christi, aren't you?
The TEDx community is so amazing. Talk about a community of powerhouse people. It's TED. That is where it's at. And if you feel like you're part of that community, then you need to be joining us. And it doesn't even have to be that you're a speaker. If you want to be an organizer, if you want to be a volunteer, if you want to be a coach, there's so many things that you can do to just come and be part of this community and learn and grow and share yourself with other people.
And share your voice, right? Like, what big ideas do you have that you want to spread to the world? So we can help you do that. So today we are shedding a spotlight on a hero. You know, our world more than ever before today needs more heroes, needs more people who are celebrated as strong leaders in our community. And this show is all about celebrating nominated heroes, just like TEDx is all about people sharing their voice. The Power Up Hero show is all about celebrating leaders who are really showing what it's like to get it all done. Because let's face it, living this life sometimes feels like you have to pull unimaginable superpowers from who knows where. So today, we want to pull those superpowers. I like to say, Megan always acts like she's got like her bow and her quivers, and her superpowers are ready to be shot where they need to go. And I love it. And so, Megan, today we're talking about an agent of change. We're talking about somebody who is a strong, celebrated leader in our community. And we're talking about a person who really, truly is living the life as the best version of themselves. Today, we are shedding a spotlight for Reverend Tracey Anderson-Tellado. Reverend Tracey is a wife, a mother, a minister, and U.S. Air Force veteran. Megan, I met Reverend Tracey on the TED stage. I literally had no idea who this person was. And when I met her, it was love at first sight, literally. She's magnetic in person. And so I cannot wait to read the rest of her bio, but just know, Megan, when you meet her in person, it's a whole other person, okay? Her energy is so magnetic. Tracey has served in pastoral capacities during her time in ministry and is currently the Moderator-Elect for the Southwest region of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. She's an Adjunct Faculty Member at the Stark College Seminary in Corpus Christi and is in pursuit of her Doctor of Ministry at United Theological Seminary. In the community, Reverend Anderson-Tellado is part of the local ministerial alliance and is active with the YWCA and moderated their 14th annual Racial Justice Forum during the 2020 Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. And without any further ado, we welcome our Power Up Hero of Justice, Reverend Tracey Anderson-Tellado.
Hello. It's so nice to be here with y'all today, and especially after that enthusiastic introduction, and I'm like, who is that y'all are talking about?
You're like, is there somebody else here in the room?
I'm looking over my shoulder.
Well, let me tell you, look all over. Whatever shadows you're casting, whatever light you're glowing on top of us, we're talking about all of you that's in that space you're at right now. All the versions of you that have done all the amazing things you do and continue to do. I just know that you are a light in this community. And so we couldn't be more proud to have you here with us to celebrate you as a hero, a PowerUp hero in your life. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Megan. I am honored. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so with that, let's go ahead and get started with our line of questioning. So for those of you who are watching the show right now, you know how we do. We want you to be part of the show. So get in the comments, ask your questions, and give shout outs to us or to our guest. So that way you can be a part of this show. So our very first question for you, Reverend Tracey, is tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we gave a good introduction, but tell us what you do in service to the world.
Well, honestly, I would simply tell you, I just do what I do. And you know, I am very interested, very invested in racial justice and racial equity. So I've served on panels concerning that. Actually, I didn't even put it on the bio, but I am the convener of our reconciliation committee for my region of our denomination. And so we are working on putting together training for the ministers within our region in terms of being anti-racist and pro-reconciliation. And so that's something that's very close to my heart. Really what I want to do is just focus on racial equity and also equity in education. And so those are the two things that are really the closest to my heart and to, you know, what I want to do to enact change here within my sphere of influence. And the more I learn, the more passionate I am about that.
Reverend Tracey, it looks like you already have a cheering squad for you, and looks like Sarita is on, and she says, "Hi, Reverend Tracey. You go, sis."
Hey, sis. Hi, sis. How are you? Oh, my goodness.
We love Sarita. In fact, fun fact, Sarita was the very first PowerUp hero we ever celebrated. So it is truly a pleasure to have you on the show, Sarita. Welcome.
Well, I am honored to follow. That's a lot. That's some big shoes to fill.
It is. And actually, I think Megan, she has a question for us, right?
She does. And it sounds like she wants to know what kinds of things that you would like to see in regards to equity and education. You just talked about how those are two super important things to your heart. What kinds of things would you like to see happen in regards to those two topics?
Okay, well, for one thing, I don't know how many of us have been following the whole critical race theory brouhaha that's going on. But what I would like to see, first of all, is for there to be more education surrounding exactly what critical race theory actually is, and the fact that it is not taught in kindergarten through 12th grade. That's the first thing. Because critical race theory simply examines the systemic inequalities within the educational system and other systems. Now, this is college level stuff. This has nothing to do with K through 12. And in all honesty, what I would really like to see in education, and this is very personal to me, is a more culturally relevant education throughout the grades. And when I say that, I don't know how many people have thought about the fact, like I remember when I was in school and I was a kid in school, I was basically one of maybe 2 or 3 Black students within any class I was in. And so you have teachers who will make cultural references that were not germane to me. Now, this is a very small example. I think once when we were talking about math or something, and the teacher said, you know how you wash your hair every day. For whatever reason, she brought up washing your hair every day. And so I'm this little Black girl sitting here and I'm like, I don't wash my hair every day. Who are you talking to? You know, and so I went through the entirety of my school career listening to things that were not germane to my cultural experience. And so what I would like to see is the recognition that we need to have more culturally responsive education, because I'm getting tie-tongued because you're already getting me off somewhere. And the thing is, when we see ourselves featured, young Black, young brown children, young Asian children, any child, that's everybody, not necessarily, you know, I'm not trying to throw shade at our European brothers and sisters. What I'm saying is we all want to see ourselves, and when we all see ourselves, then it's helpful for us to learn. I would like to see within education more acknowledgement of people from the African diaspora and the contributions that they've made. I am so tired of the fact that, for the most part, all we hear about in terms of African Americans is that we were slaves, we were freed, Martin Luther King Jr., kumbaya. That's it. That's it. We're all equal now. Racism is in the past. This, that, and the third, none of which is true. So, I mean, and you can hear y'all gonna have to pull me back, because I can talk about this.
I can hear it. I hear it in your voice. And I think this is why I feel like, for our guests watching, you're connected in so many different forums, not only here in our community, but even like nationally, in regards to this work of justice, right? In this work of racial justice, equity in the classroom. I love how you said cultural relevant education, right? Because whatever example that was, right, of whatever, everybody's own personal experiences isn't necessarily the experience of all the students in the classroom, right? So it's important for our educators to pay attention to that. So I like how you said that. So yeah. So now I want to go back to Tracey Anderson as a little girl. So let's just kind of go there, right? Like where did this come from? Let's talk about where you grew up. Did you grow up here in Corpus Christi? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, actually, I was a military brat. My father was in the United States Air Force. He actually spent 30 years in the military, in the Air Force. I like to joke that I started kindergarten in the Philippines, and I graduated from high school in England. And so I've been, I remember being in kindergarten. My kindergarten teacher's name was Miss Buno. She was Hawaiian, and we used to have a Hawaiian luau like periodically. I mean, I've just been all over the place. I've lived in different places within the United States: San Antonio, Omaha, Nebraska, Mississippi. When I went to high school in England. It's one of those things, when you look back on your life and you think that wow, this was just amazing, but at the time you weren't really thinking of it that way. I mean, because like, for example, in English, when 11th and 12th graders will study Shakespeare. When we studied Shakespeare, we went to Stratford-on-Avon. We saw his house, his birthplace. We went to go visit Big Ben. We went to the National Theater. There's an organization called the Model United Nations. So I went to The Hague in Holland with the Model United Nations. And so, I mean, but here's the thing. I spent the majority of my education recognizing that things that were taught weren't necessarily directed towards me. And it wasn't anything that I had language for or could articulate. But what I knew in my head was that when there were references made, they were not my references. And I would just have to glean what I could from whatever was being discussed. And I can tell you, there were some pretty hurtful incidences too, where I was made very much aware that I was not of the majority. I mean, I'll tell you one real quick. Okay. I don't know if y'all remember, like when you were little kids and the school nurse would come and check for lice, and they would like line all the students up, and they would check your hair and do all this. And so I remember being a little kid, and of course, as little kids are wont to do, they like joke among themselves in the line as they're waiting. And so I said, "Oh, I hope I don't have lice or whatever." And the kid behind me said, "Well, you people don't get lice because you have so much grease in your hair, the lice slides out." And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that I had to deal with. And so, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, I just thought of that as part and parcel of growing up. Yeah. And it's only as a woman looking back that I realized how profoundly those microaggressions have shaped me into the person that, when you say power up hero or anything like that, I have a hard time receiving that because my environment was such that I was always thought of as less than, you know. And if there's anything that I would like to pass on, especially to young women of color, young Black women, don't think of yourself as less than. Recognize your own heroic power within yourselves. Now, and Lisa, forgive me, I'm probably going to go off on a left turn here, because one of the areas of specific interest that I have is that of imposter syndrome. Have y'all heard of that?
I have. Yeah. Yes. And let me tell you, this is your show, Reverend Tracey. So you drive this train or whatever we're on, whatever direction you want to go. I'm loving it.
Okay, well, for those who are not familiar, what imposter syndrome has to do with is like, for example, you read my biography. You said that Reverend Anderson-Tellado is the Moderator-Elect of the Southwest region. She does this, she does that. She's an adjunct professor, this, that, and the third. Now, when I hear all that, even though I know that that's me, what I'm thinking in my head is that I am not really qualified to do any of the things that I'm doing. I am actually an imposter. And the instant that somebody finds out that I really don't know what I'm doing at any given time, they're going to throw me out of everything that I'm doing. I like to joke that what it means is I'm perpetrating a fraud. And one of these days, people are going to find out that I'm actually perpetrating a fraud. That's what imposter syndrome is. This is something that term was coined back in the 1970s. I actually did kind of a whole research project on that not too long ago. But I say all that to say that there is now research coming out that says what has been previously done is that the people who are suffering from imposter syndrome, they have up until this point said that it was an individual problem, when in fact research is showing that it's the environments that these people are in that is causing the imposter syndrome. So if you are in a supportive, culturally relevant environment, you are far less likely to suffer from imposter syndrome, which is why at the end of my research, what I suggested, because I was talking about, I did research on Black women in higher education who dealt with imposter syndrome. And part of my research had to do with my conclusion, and this was like my own small conclusion before I even read anything else about it, was that perhaps what we need to do is have young Black students go to HBCUs and be in those environments where, in effect, they can shore up their armor against the inevitable discrimination, micro and macro aggressions that they will face when they get into quote unquote the real world. And so that's why I find culturally relevant education so very important, because what I don't want to see is people, anybody, and especially women of color, thinking the way that I'm thinking and suffering from I want them to be able to own their ability, their greatness, their power. I want them to be able to, I had a friend say this once, I want them to be able to walk in their who-ness. And I heard that and I loved it. And I'm still trying to learn how to walk in my who-ness, how to be the authentic, the best Tracey Anderson-Tellado that I can be, and the Tracey Anderson-Tellado that not only walks through doors, but holds them open for the people behind me and brings them forward too. Okay, I'm gonna take a breath now and let somebody else talk.
Wow, Megan. I don't know if you're taking notes, Megan. I'm over here like, I feel like I'm on Audible, just like taking it in. This is a book. It's like you're writing a book for us. And we're on the chapter of imposter syndrome, right?
My husband always says I need to write a book.
You should. If nothing else, we're going to transcribe this episode and just, you'll have an ebook from it. So we want to thank Suraida Nonis James for bringing it in.
See what you did, Suraida?
Yeah. And by the way, she's all in the field, okay? So you're definitely hitting a nerve with all of us. I know, I don't want to speak for Megan, but I have been in a space with Megan where Megan has actually talked about the race that we are on, right? So I know Megan has talked a little bit about what it's like to be in a space where you feel less than. And in fact, Megan has won an award for public speaking based off of that topic. So,
oh, wow.
And I remember when Megan was giving that talk, I was getting emotional, right? Because it's like this feeling of, you know, when people don't feel their authentic self and they're really sharing from their heart, it affects everyone, right? So it's not good for our world if as humans, we are not celebrating each other and powering up each other, right? If we're not seeing each other as remarkable. So.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting to me now that I think about it, when people have lived this lived experience their whole life. And then you talk about, you know, the conversations that we've had and the things that I've talked about and shared with the world. And my lived experiences is that I grew up pretty safe. But for one instance, like one encounter changed that completely. And I can't even imagine what it's like for people to have lived this lived experience their whole lives. And so we have like two opposite spectrums, right? Somebody who has lived this their whole entire life and that's their lived experience, and then somebody who grew up like in this pretty safe environment internally, I mean, and then all of a sudden that rug is ripped from under you and you're like, what in the world just happened? What is this? How do I move in this? What do I do with myself? How do I deal with everything that's inside of me that's happening right now? And how do I protect my loved ones? And so I think for many people, I think that's kind of where we're at now, even as a nation, is people are starting to wake up. And I'm so grateful and glad for pioneers like you, Reverend Tracey, and pioneers for like all of our TED family. There's so many people in the TED family who are working towards this movement. And I think you guys are really just paving the way for some of us who are now just kind of almost waking up and living some of this. And I think that a lot of us probably would not have an adequate roadmap had you not held the door open for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Indeed. Very well said, Megan. And so with that, I want to ask you a question, Reverend Tracey. We're calling you the PowerUp Hero of Justice. So tell us a little bit about what you think a hero is.
Well, here's the thing. I really love the beginning of this show, because you have so many different examples. Typically, we think of a hero as like a lone individual that comes in and saves the day. And actually, right as I was saying that, if anybody is around me long enough, they'll realize I will break into a movie or a song quote or a cartoon or something. And just when I said that, right in my head, I heard Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. That's what I think of. That's what I have typically thought of as a hero. But see, what a hero is to me now is not somebody who is coming in always in the midst of a dire situation. A hero is somebody who wakes up and puts in the work every single day for a cause that they believe in. Even as the Frederick Buechner, the theologian, talks about, where the world's deepest need and your deepest joy meet. And a hero will find that part of the Venn diagram and work on that and be part of the solution every day. They go to bat for that every day. And there are people like you, Lisa, like you, Megan, like all of the people who I met on our TEDx talk, who all, by the way, were absolutely amazeballs, and all real heroes. So I would say a hero is just somebody who goes and takes it to the mat every day, who lives life as well as they can possibly live it, who loves their families, who cares about their neighborhoods. All of that is heroic. I think so much of the time we try and glamorize and make stuff cosmic in scale. And what that does is it paralyzes people, because what they think is that, man, I can't do anything big and grand. And I'm when I say that, I'm talking about myself too. I can't do anything big and huge and grand. All I can do is what I can do. You know, and there are instances when people have said stuff to me that, you know, have changed the trajectory of my thinking about being a hero or being a role model or anything like that. Because I had somebody tell me once, like when we start the semester at Stark College and Seminary, typically we have a convocation. And so what that means is everybody comes in their regalia, and the students are there and they're watching all the faculty process in and everything. And I had a student come and tell me that she was so moved at this Black woman processing in with all of these other people, because I'm the only one. And that she looked at me as a role model. And that just like blew my mind, because I'm like, I don't consider myself a role model. I just do what I do. It never even occurs to me that anybody else is looking at me in that way, because and this is the imposter thing going on too. Like I'm just playing. You know, I'm not really all that. I'm just here. But when she told me that, and this is for somebody I very deeply, deeply respect and whom I look at as a role model. And I thought, well, if that's what other people are thinking and other young women are thinking, then I need to get myself together and be an actual role model. And really put myself in a position to be of service to other people and to offer such as I can offer. I mean, I don't profess to know everything or know all the answers, but I am a very intellectually curious person. I love to learn. I am a huge nerd. And any kind of information that I have, any kind of way I can help, I am all geeked out to share it. So, and what I don't want to see is somebody coming behind me, like I said, having the same issues that I have. Because even as a woman, as Audre Lorde says, ain't nobody free till we're all free. And we all need to be free. It's not a zero-sum game. So.
Yes. Wow. What does a hero mean to you? There you go, everybody watching. That is a hero. And Sarita, no words, exactly. That's how I feel.
You are not going to get short answers from me. I'm sorry.
Well, we're not expecting it. This is your show. This is your celebration. So we definitely empower you and ask you to continue to share as much as you want. This is great. We're really enjoying it. And with that, actually, we are going to show your TED Talk in a little bit. But before we do that, kind of want to wrap up this conversation we're having about you being a hero. We talked about justice, right? So we know that you're specifically focused on racial justice, and I guess you could say equity in the educational forums that we're in, right? Whatever types of education we have, formal education, informal education, whatever it is, we need equity in that. So we want to ask you, in terms of you, when you said you heard Mighty Mouse, right? So imagine yourself standing in your power pose as the power-up hero of justice. What is your superpower, right? So, Superman can fly, Wonder Woman can pretty much do anything she wants, right? So what would you say your superpower is?
Well, I think my superpower, I have a couple of things that come to mind. Okay. I believe, and I know we talked about how we're going to discuss some other things, but I'm going to bring this in real quickly. I think empathy is a very strong superpower that I have. And this is because within my life, I have gone through so many different experiences that, and this falls into my ministry too, that I can minister and I can be empathetic to any number of things in a way that other people cannot. So when I am passionate about racial equity, when I am passionate about educational, culturally relevant education, it's because I am coming from a place of empathy, because I know what it's like to be the one little kid in the class where everything that's being talked about has nothing to do with you. I know what it's like to come through education and not have had a teacher that looks like you. I know what that's like. And so I think that empathy for those situations makes me even more passionate and more willing to try and jump in and be part of the solution. And hear me, I am never, and I never have been the person that wants to be out in front. Somehow I seem to be some of the time, but it's never ever because I'm seeking it. And my other, I think the other superpower I might have is authenticity. And I say that to say, my friend, Dr. Amy, who has also been featured on here, she told me that was a gift, that the same person you see talking to you is going to be the same person you run into at HEB or Walmart. I'm exactly the same everywhere I go. Now, I had not realized that was a gift. She told me it was a gift. I don't know how to be any other way. I'm not somebody, and also, and the reason for this is because I don't know if y'all are familiar with Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, The Mask. Now, The Mask, in that sense, talks about us as Black people who are forced to wear a mask as we walk around in our environments every day, and we're dealing with with systemic racism and microaggressions and everything that we have to deal with. We literally have to put on this mask, whereas we are not able to be our authentic selves because it is not safe for us to be our authentic selves. Now, the reason that authenticity is so prevalent and so important for me is because I have made a point of attempting to dispense with the mask as much as I can, because quite frankly, it's exhausting. It's tiring to be somebody that you're not. Now, that might just be because I'm lazy. I don't know, but I refuse to keep putting on a mask and not being who I am. You're going to have to, this is what you get. What you see is what you get. There's an old song, what you see is what you get. That's me. That's me.
Man, we even got some singing in there. Can I say, Zoraida is so on top of this combo. She's totally, like, even before you said authenticity, Zoraida is in there like, I know her superpowers. Speaking superpower. As soon as you said empathy, she put that in there. And then you said authenticity, and I'm like, boom, you've got friends. And I wrote this down. I said, and probably Megan agrees, sometimes your superpowers, you know what your superpower is, but it's important to also have people you trust be your mirror and show you what your superpower is. Because sometimes you just don't know what your hero values are, right? How you should identify to the world. So, and we are so excited to have Ken here, loving the show. We're so excited that you're here. Keep the comments coming. We're loving it so much. And so with that, we are going to take just a little break. I want to give a shout out. I don't know if you've listened to the artist Chaos, but Chaos has this song where he actually has the quote where he says that I'm not trying to change the world. I'm just trying to stop pretending. So this is that whole thing of, wow, I just want to live my life, like, can we just live our lives without having to pretend?
And that'll preach right there.
Just, so powerful. So when you were talking, I was just hearing that. So let's go ahead and give everyone a little preview to your TED Talk. So before I actually show the TED Talk, I want to mention that Reverend Tracey Anderson-Tellado was part of our community here in Corpus Christi, where she applied to be a TEDx speaker. And we were so excited to have Reverend Tracey as part of our speakers. Now, the talks are available on our website, which is TEDxCopark.com. Today, we're only going to be showing a short snippet of the talk, but you can always go and watch the full talk on the TED.com website. And so with that, we'll be right back in just a few moments.
I'd like to tell you a story. Once there was a group of friends who were mourning because a friend of theirs had gotten killed. Now, they were in a locked room just crying and weeping, when all of a sudden their dead friend appears in the room with them. He talks to them, and then he disappears. Now, when they try and tell another friend of theirs named Thomas what happened, he said he would have to see this with his own eyes to believe it. Well, later on, when they were back together again and Thomas was with them, their dead friend appeared again. But it wasn't until Thomas saw that he actually believed. My good people, I have just shared with you the story of doubting Thomas. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with that story, Christians believe that Jesus, the Son of God, appeared to his followers after his death. Only one of the disciples, named Thomas, was not with them. And when they tried to tell Thomas that Jesus had appeared to them, he did not believe it and said he would have to see with his own eyes. Well, he got the chance a few weeks later when Jesus showed up again, went to Thomas and told him to put his fingers in the holes in his hands and his hand in the wound in his side. Again, it wasn't until Thomas saw that he believed. As an African American in these United States, I have dealt with more than my share of doubting Thomases. For example, Once when I lived in North Carolina, I stopped at a gas station to pump gas. Now, this was before the advent of pay at the pump. And so what one would do was drive up, fill up their tank, and then go inside to pay. Well, on this particular day, and I remember it very well because I happened to be in a hurry that day, I pulled up to the pump, tried to fill my tank with gas, but the pump didn't work. And I thought, well, that figures. I would pull up to the one pump that doesn't work. And so I pulled forward to the next pump and tried that one, and that didn't work either. Well, by now I'm really annoyed because I'm looking on the other side and I see other cars coming up, pumping their gas, going inside to pay, and driving off. So finally, what I do is I go in and I say to the attendant, I have tried 2 different gas tanks and neither one of the pumps are working. And she said, oh yeah, I saw you. But we've had a lot of people stealing gas, and so I didn't turn the pumps on. And then she tells me that I have to prepay in order to get my gas. So when I tell this incident to a white friend of mine, the first thing that she says is, are you sure that's what happened? Oh, no other pumps were turned off and you were the only black person there? I'm sure that didn't have anything to do with it. Doubting Thomas. Another time, I was putting groceries on the conveyor belt at my local grocery store. Now, I had all of the usual things, vegetables, meat, bread, some high-calorie snacks that I didn't need, when all of a sudden, the cashier says to me, you know you can't get those snacks with food stamps. Now, he hadn't even begun ringing up my groceries, so there was no way that he could have known how I was going to pay. And again, when I told this to a white friend of mine, she said, oh, I'm sure that he said that to everybody. Well, he didn't say it to the white woman in front of me, nor to the one behind me. Doubting Thomas. Now, I could pull quite a few more incidents out of my mental Rolodex. And yes, I know I'm dating myself by talking about a Rolodex, but I'm sure y'all get the point. And in this past year, we have dealt with a global pandemic, a contentious election cycle, and an unprecedented racial reckoning. Now, this reckoning was precipitated by the murder of George Floyd by Officer Derek Chauvin, who knelt with his knee on Floyd's neck for somewhere around 9 minutes while he pleaded for air, and finally George died crying out for his mother. Now, this was not the first time such an incident had happened, and it certainly was not the last. But in this particular instance, this was caught on camera, a cell phone camera by 17-year-old Darnella Frazier, and broadcast to the world for all to see. And then all of a sudden, racial discrimination and police brutality became real, captured in living color for the entire world to witness. There was no way to spin it, no possibility of explaining it away. The world saw Derek Chauvin kneel casually with his knee on the neck of George Floyd, with his hand in his pocket, looking for all the world like he was posing for a photograph. He did not have a problem with being filmed because he felt as if he was perfectly within his purview to be doing what he was doing, which was committing murder. And then white people believed. They put their fingers in the holes and their hand in the side of racial injustice and police brutality, and they finally saw what we have been protesting about and dying as a result of. It wasn't until they saw it that they believed it. Now, as I close, I would like to leave you with 3 action steps. One, recognize that intent doesn't matter. Impact does. And lest one believe that I am merely an angry Black woman, just know that when we experience these things and then we have to defend ourselves, we become re-traumatized. Number 2, do your own work. There are tons of books and films on race and racial discrimination. Read them. It is for that reason that I have become much more resistant when white people want to cast me in the role of black spurt, whereupon I am asked to prove that racial discrimination is indeed a thing. And finally, number 3, when one of us shares an incident of racial harm with you, believe us. Don't talk about intent. Don't say it was a mistake. Just believe us. Please stop being a doubting Thomas. Thank you.
Wow. You know what's funny is I told everybody, we're just going to play a little bit of this clip. I couldn't stop it. I could not stop it. Oh.
Well, it's a good thing it wasn't that long.
Well, I love your talk so much. And honestly, I think the reason I love your talk, obviously, is because of how much power you bring into that talk. It's already just so clear that you're passionate about the topic. But the other thing I love about the talk is the action items that you give, right? And I don't know, I couldn't end it because I wanted people to get to the action items. That's probably why I didn't end it. So
yeah, that definitely was my favorite part. I wrote them all down and I was like, wow, that definitely those are some action items to walk away with and follow up on. So we've got homework, everybody.
We got
homework.
We do. Oh, and then, okay, so here's the thing. Oh, Soraya says we need shirts. We need a shirt that says.
That is actually a good idea.
Yeah.
I would wear that shirt.
Hashtag
believe us.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes when you think about these subtle acts of exclusion over time of not being believed that didn't happen. Did it really go like that? It's like, why are you not believing somebody's side of the story, right? Because you're not seeing it their way. So it's important to have empathy, right? One of your superpowers, and really see things from the perspective that you may not have because you haven't had that lived experience. So yeah, I'm loving it so much. So let's actually move straight into Fast 5-finger favorites, if you don't mind. We're going to have a little bit of fun with you, Reverend Tracey. And during this portion of the show, we ask all our guests who are watching to also share their favorites. We want to all learn from each other. So on Fast 5-finger favorites, Reverend Tracey, we're going to ask you 5 things, and we're going to ask you what your favorites are. So we're going to start right off the bat with, what is your favorite book?
Okay. That could be into different categories, but the one book, well, first of all, that time travel again is my theme. And when you asked me my questions and I told you I was really deep off in time travel, like one of my favorite books, the heroine was back when I was into time travel romance books, like decades ago. The first one I ever read, the heroine was named Brienne, and that's actually what my daughter's name is, and that's where it comes from, is Brienne. But my favorite fiction book is called The Summer House by Jude Devereaux. That book actually has to do with 3 friends who run upon this woman who has the ability to send them back for 2 weeks into any 2 weeks of their past. And they have the opportunity to relive those 2 weeks. And then they come back to the present. And the book is about their experiences when they go back and relive those 2 weeks.
I love that. I mean, sounds like a good movie. Megan and I all vibe on movies and shows, right?
Yes.
It is actually an amazing book. And even though it's like a work of fiction, it raises up so many different questions because, and this is the reason I have such a fascination with time travel is the fact, and you didn't ask me this, but my favorite poem is the Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. You know, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. And the reason that I love that poem is at the very end of it, it talks about I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And what I love about the theme with all of these is that, you know, when you take a road, it just sends you on a different trajectory, because I believe that life is a tapestry. And the reason that I'm so fascinated with time travel is that you always go back. If anybody is anything like me, they will always go back and say, oh, if I had zigged instead of zagged. Oh, if I had done this instead of done that, things would be so much better. But maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they wouldn't. Because what I have figured out is that you cannot change one thing in isolation. Because if you change one thing, it changes everything, which is why I say my powers of empathy and all the things that I have gone through have made me who I am today. And so if you pull a thread, everything unravels. And so even though I would like to climb in my DeLorean and go back to like 1985 or different places, if I did that and I changed things and I came back, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. I would be a completely different person.
Which would make me so sad because I want to know you in my life.
So that's a long answer to my favorite book. And that's only my favorite fiction book.
I love it. It's Fast 5 Finger Favorites, Reverend Tracey style.
Yeah, she's trying to... Yeah, emphasis on the fast.
I love it. I love it. Well, you've just given me a book to go pick up because it's always nice to have good recommendations. So the next question is, what's your favorite movie or something to watch?
My favorite movie is The Matrix.
Oh my gosh.
I love The Matrix. I swear to you, there are any number of times when I'm convinced we're living in the Matrix at any given time. It's one of those movies where I can watch it and I will sit and watch that movie like I ain't never seen it before. Every time I watch it, and I always discover something different. And I love the questions that it poses as far as free will and how Neo says he doesn't believe in that crap. Believe in predestination. I mean, he doesn't believe in that. He believes you write your own fate. There's just so much about that movie. I mean, and that's all of them, because you know there's 3 of them. Now, of course, the original one, always whenever there are sequels, they're never as good. But the second movie, and I'm gonna go off on all this. I don't know how familiar y'all are with the movies.
It's my favorite movie too. So
are you serious? Yeah. Oh my God! So like the second movie with the Merovingian.
Yes.
And when they come to him and they want the key maker, and he wants and he asked them why they want the key maker, and then he does this whole long speech about the why. You know that she said to come to you. Yes. Come to me. But you come to me without the why, without power. This is what separates you from me, us from them. You know, I absolutely love that, because that is the thing that we all need to be thinking about. We do what we do, but we have to know why we do what we do. Because if we don't know why, it's never going to work. I know why I am so passionate about racial equity, racial justice, educational equity, because of the effect that it had on me. That is my why. And so when you know your why, it's going to keep you putting one thing in front of the other. Okay.
The Matrix. That's all the Matrix
Mic
has
drop.
to say.
Oh my gosh. Fast 5 finger favorites, y'all. Reverend Tracey, what is your favorite song or something to listen to?
You know what just came in my head? Shake It Off.
Oh,
Taylor Swift.
I love that song too.
Haters gonna hate.
Yep.
You just gotta shake it off.
Shake it off. It's a good dance song.
That one, and from darn, the movie escapes me now. Frozen, Let It Go.
Oh yes.
When I'm feeling down, or when I'm feeling like I need to just get my perspective reset, both of those two, Shake It Off and Let It Go.
Yeah. And when I hear the song Shake It Off, I think of that movie Sing. Have you seen it? It's an animation. It's an animation. It's called Sing.
With the animals, right?
Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna love it. I'm so glad you haven't seen it. You are gonna be in heaven, so go watch it. It's called Sing. Yes. Oh, I wish I was you and I had never seen it. So go watch Sing.
I have been wanting to see it, but I have never seen it.
Oh, you need to see it because they sing this song, Shake It Off, in there. And you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Okay, and then your second to last question on your fast 5 finger favorites is, what is your favorite quote?
Now, actually, that changes depending. I have 2 right now. There's one that says, what Africans have done, Africans can do. And what that has to do with is the fact that we as a people need to recognize, and this of course goes back to education, when we have young Black people, young African Americans that don't know the rich, amazing history of our people, then we don't recognize that the things that they did, we can do. Now that's one quote. The other one is, the ocean does not apologize for its depth, and mountains do not seek forgiveness for the space they take, and so neither shall I. Ooh. And that is by Becca Lee. That's a quote by Becca Lee. And the reason that I love that quote has to do with me personally, and this goes back to the imposter syndrome. This goes back to the fact where so much of the time I find myself apologizing for taking up space. And this is my reminder that I do not need to apologize for the space that I take up in this world, and I have every right to be here along with all of the rest of us. So.
Oh my gosh.
I like that second one. That second one is good.
I know. I love it so much because everybody has their triggers. And mine is when you tell me to be less than who I am. I feel like I'm a very energetic person. And so when someone tells me to calm down or relax or take a breath, I feel like I need to just repeat this quote to them.
I'm telling you.
You just gave me a quiver for my arrow. So
I promise you, Lisa, the people like you, those are the ones that folks are trying to throw shade on and tamp down. Do not let them tamp you down, my sister. Do not let them tamp you down.
It's so hard though. In the moment when it happens, it feels like, oh, you just shot me.
You walk in your who-ness, you walk in your Lisa-ness, and don't let nobody, hate is gonna hate. Don't even deal with them.
Yeah. I'm
telling you, be encouraged, my sister.
Oh my gosh. I just highlighted, walk in your who-ness and your Lisa-ness. Oh my gosh. I am going to write that somewhere. Megan, walk in your Megan-ness.
Everybody.
That's right.
Everybody.
Suraida, work in your Suraida-ness. Now we need a new shirt. The who-ness shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh my gosh, and another good movie that I like has Whoville in it. What is that one called? Is it it's a Christmas one?
Oh, are you talking about the Grinch that stole Christmas?
Yes, with Whoville. I love the Grinch.
I loved it. Well, I like the original cartoon more than I like the movie.
Yeah,
because I'm an old head. So I always like the old stuff. Just like at Christmas, I watch all the Rankin Bass cartoons from back in the 70s.
Yeah.
With the Heat Miser and the Snow Miser and all of that. And I am 53 years old, and I will sit and watch all that stuff every single year. My kids think I'm crazy.
Misfits.
Yes, I am just such a misfit.
And I don't know what y'all are talking about, so you're gonna have to school me. So what is it called?
They're so old, Lisa. My grandma, that was her thing. And when she sat down to watch them every Christmas, we all sat down to watch them every Christmas.
Your grandmother? Oh my God. Now I'm really feeling old. You're talking about your grandmother.
Oh my God.
It was like our little thing to do. So yeah, I definitely know those. And
why can't I fit in?
All right. So swiftly into the last question on our Fast 5 Finger Favorites. We always like to ask our PowerUp heroes how they wake up in the morning. So today we're celebrating you, Reverend Tracey, as our PowerUp Hero of Justice. We just unpacked that your superpowers are empathy and authenticity. So tell us, how would you wake up to PowerUp? How do you meet the day? How would you want to get maximum energy when you throw those covers off?
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna tell you, I don't throw no covers off. I confess I am not a morning person. I am way more of a night owl than a morning person. I wake up in the morning. I have been really trying to, I listened to this one radio program that talks about having a moment of gratitude and taking 10 deep breaths. And so I'm really trying to work on just not jumping out of bed, checking my phone and hitting the ground running. And so I try and think of just being grateful for waking up the next day. People tease me because I'm not a morning person. And my husband will say, don't you like to wake up in the morning? And I say, I'm very happy to wake up. It's just the getting up thing that's the problem. I wake up, I try and take my breaths. I try and think of something to be grateful for. Not that it's very hard, but then I just really, go and greet my dog who's waiting on me and try and just be quiet. And maybe watch the news, maybe try and meditate, read a inspirational devotional passage or something like that before I really get started doing the things that I have to do. But what I find is that it takes me time for my brain to wake up. And so I have to take that time and be still. And it usually takes me a good 30, 45 minutes before I'm actually cognizant in the morning. Now, if you catch me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm wide awake. That's my thing. But to power up in the morning, I have to have quiet and stillness and no one talking to me, which is hard when you live with a man who wakes up talking. God love him. He is the lark to my night owl, but I typically power up in silence and just quiet. And I know that might be hard to believe as much as I'm talking right now, but I have to have quiet in order to really be ready to face the day.
Well, good thing we had this show in the afternoon. So
it is. It absolutely is. You might have got a different Tracey if you tried to do this at 9 o'clock in the morning.
But I think this is sort of like a trend that we've seen on the show, which is a lot of people are starting to own their authentic selves, because I think we are all maybe we see these successful people who say, I wake up at 4 a.m., I wake up at 5 a.m., and we're all trying to do that. And I think everyone's waking up to their authentic selves of, well, that doesn't work for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know for me, though, personally, honestly, like, that's my time. Like, I, like, naturally wake up early, and I naturally go to sleep at 8 o'clock. Like, it's just like I pass out. I'm like a baby. But I wake up early. And for others, it's not like that, right? And I love that. I love that we are all awakening to our own unique circadian rhythms, right? We all have our own energy and our own rhythms. And so, Megan, I can't remember. Are you a night owl also?
Naturally, yes. But I have things that I need to get done. So I have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning because that nighttime is my time. So all the things that I have to get done and have to do, they happen during the daytime so that I can own my nighttime and do whatever I want to do in my nighttime.
Yes. And you know what? And that's true. That's why I wake up early, so I can, get it all done. It's my bookend. I literally I have my bookend and I do everything I want to do. And by the time the sun is up and everybody else is awake, I've pretty much had a whole other day. So I feel like I'm living two lives.
Wow.
And I think
I'm waking up early.
Yeah, I think to Tracy's point too, though, that morning time when I am waking up early and getting everything I need to get done, it's like preparing me for that middle of the day when I have to interact with people. So by the time that 5:30 a.m. to like 8:30 a.m. has happened, it has given me that time to wake up so that when I interact, I'm ready for you, I'm alive, I'm bright. So there's something to say about that time.
And that's my point, because when I tell people, for example, that I am actually an introverted person, folks don't believe me. But the thing is, of course, the difference between introvert and extrovert is an introvert loses energy in interacting with people. And it's not that I don't love people and love interacting with people, but for example, like when I was preaching and pastoring a church, I was toast every Sunday afternoon because I had been on for so long and putting out that energy. And so in the morning, when I'm not talking, when I'm not interacting with people, that's me shoring up my energy for the rest of the day. And I love the way that, first of all, that you are able, Lisa, what you said about people being able to freely say that, because so much of the time that is frowned upon when you want to admit that, no, I ain't trying to get up at cock's crow. I that don't work for me. Now, sometimes I feel like what you said, Megan, I should be up at 5:30 in the morning because I legitimately have stuff that I could be doing 12 hours a day. And I would love to wake up earlier. But what I know about myself is even if I did that, I would not be functional anyway. Yeah. And so it's pointless. Mm-hmm. And so when I wake up at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and I have like the hour that I can just veg out and get my mind right and get my energy right, it makes the rest of the day go more quickly and more efficiently, and I enjoy my interactions with people. And so I thank you for allowing me to say that authentically, because when you asked how do I power up in the morning, my first thought was, I don't damn power up in the morning. I ain't got no kind of power in the morning. None. Yeah. So I'm glad that, and that was me being authentic and admitting.
Yes.
That I don't jump out of bed first thing in the morning, all full of piss and vinegar. That's not me.
Yes.
I don't do that. So.
Yeah. And I don't either, but somehow or another, I wake up early. And now let me tell you this, one of the things you did talk about was the efficiency, right? So if you force yourself to wake up, you're going to be running almost like on empty. So are you going to be efficient? Like, are you really sharp? Are you thinking clearly? Are you focused? You need to be focused. You need to be sharp. So take your time if that's what you need, right? So whatever it takes for you to power up, right? I always say it's like when you plug in your phone for energy, right? We all have our way that we need to plug in for energy. And speaking of that, I want to ask you, we talk about our power up heroes being efficient and they use their time wisely because we know time is the most valuable resource in the world. So how do you use your time wisely? Do you have any hacks for us on efficiency?
I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if I do. Here's the thing about Tracey. I get done everything I need to get done. One thing that I have really had to start doing is making sure I write everything down. I currently have like 3 calendars. I have my phone and I have 2 other paper calendars because I have to make sure that I have a running stuff that's in my pipeline of what I need to get done next. And so I have to keep it all in a place where I can see. Otherwise, I have a tendency of forgetting. And one other thing that I like to do as far as using my time wisely, and this might be the equivalent of a child that has meat, vegetables, and dessert on their plate, and they eat the vegetables first. I tend to do the things that I like least first. So that's how that would be my hack. The things that I don't like to do or am not necessarily happy with doing. I mean, like even when I was in school and I'm still in school actually, but like reading that was not necessarily the reading that I wanted to do, I would call that eating my literary vegetables, so that I can get much like the old Houdini song, and I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with Houdini, but get to the good part. So when we're going to get to the good part. So I do that first so that I can get to the good parts of my day where I'm learning about things I want to learn about, when I'm talking to people that I can learn from, just doing the things that I'm more passionate about. So like, for example, if I have to pay bills, if I have to do like household stuff, clean, whatever, I'm trying to get all that stuff out of the way first before I get to the other more enjoyable parts. So that's how I manage my time.
Love it.
Yep. That's what we call eating the frog.
Yes. Eat the frog, swallow the frog. Sometimes I feel like
eating the frog.
My frog is a pill, and I'm just gonna shove it down my throat. Oh God, I don't want to do this report, but I gotta do it. So
exactly.
Write a page. I don't have to do a 2 or 3 page paper. Just write it and be done with it. Doesn't have to be award-winning. Just write it.
So, Reverend Tracey, before I know we're getting close, and it's almost time, but
we're done actually.
Yeah, this is my absolute favorite question, and I have to ask you before you go. So as a superhero, you have amazing superpowers, but we all know that superheroes have kryptonite. There's some kind of weakness. There's always a challenge. So tell us, what are some of your challenges of being a superhero, and what are some tactics? We're all about the hacks and the tactics that you use to overcome those challenges or weaknesses.
Of weaknesses, there are many. I guess what I would say is a weakness is my tendency to put myself at the bottom of my own list. And by that I mean I have a real problem with conflating self-care with selfishness. And I don't take as good a care of myself as I should. And by that, I mean eating right, exercising, doing all of the things that sometimes as women, we are actually taught to think is in fact selfishness. But there's a reason why it says on the plane, put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. And so I need to work on that. I think another weakness that I have goes in line with the whole empathy thing, which is that I have a tendency to wear my heart on my sleeve. And when I get hurt, especially when I'm trying to reach out and be empathetic or something like that, I take it very personally, even when it's not about me personally. And I have to always work on on that, because I am an emotional person. I will cry at a Kleenex commercial. I've been known to do it. If it's sad enough, I'll cry at a commercial.
Same.
And so people will exploit that.
Yeah.
And so that is a weakness that I am really working on, just because I remember this thing my mom used to say to me, which drove me crazy, because I would come home crying because people made fun of me or whatever. And she would say to me, people made fun of Jesus Christ. And I was like, oh my God, I wish you would stop saying that. I don't even understand that. That drives me nuts. But what I know now is that is the truth. You are always going to have people that are going to be throwing shade, that are going to be hating on you, no matter how much good you're doing or other people say that you're doing. People are trying to keep you from being you and your authentic self, which goes back to what you said, Lisa, when people will tell you to calm down from your wonderfully exuberant personality, which I love. So my weakness is paying too much attention to what people think of me instead of walking in my own authenticity, in my own who-ness. Sometimes you have to not worry about what other people think. What matters is what God calls you to do, or what God calls me to do. Yeah, I realize that might not be or God or a higher power or whatever you want to call it. As a Christian, I'm going to talk about God as the one who orders my steps. And so it says in scripture, you should not fear man who can only kill the body, but fear God who can kill body and soul. And at the end of the day, that's who I have to answer to. So if you don't like me, I'm kind of hurt by that. Yes, I'm going to admit it. But at the end of the day, I have to keep walking and doing what I need to do. So that's my weakness, is worrying about that. Even though most of the time, people ain't even paying attention to you. They're too busy dealing with their own stuff. I'm convinced people are looking at me and laughing at me. Ain't nobody even looking at me.
That's true.
So
sometimes we're seeing it so clearly, and we're replaying the movie in our head, and everyone else has moved on.
Exactly, because everyone else is the star in their own movie, and you are simply the co-star.
Yes.
And so when you're thinking that you are playing a starring role in their movie, you just the extra.
Yeah.
And so you need to worry about your own movie and being the star of your own movie.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know, I love it. So let's just move into the last question. And the last question has to do with your future. We always like to know where you're going with your life as a hero. So imagine yourself 5 to 10 years from now. What do you see?
Okay, I actually had this written on one of my bulletin boards, and it says, in 10 years, I envision myself as a community leader and a facilitator of crucial conversations surrounding race and racial equity.
Wow. Did you and I know you obviously, we didn't talk in depth about asking you this question. So is that something you do? Do you write affirmations for yourself, or do you write visionary statements for yourself and put them up?
I wrote 2 years ago, when someone had asked me that. And so I wrote it out as a vision statement. And so a lot of the things that I'm doing now, I go back and I look at that. But yeah, I do. I write down quotes that I like. I write down ideas that I have in terms of things that I want to work on, in terms of things that I want to learn about. Like I was sharing with you before the broadcast, I have about 3 different bulletin boards with all kinds of ideas and dreams and things like that I go back and just kind of look and see how much of it I have actually done, if I'm any closer to certain things. That was not something I actually set out to do. It's just been a gradual thing. that I have started doing that. Now, some people journal and do that, but I'm not a journal person. I don't do that. And sometimes I feel guilty because you should journal. Well, I'm not that journal person. Just like we talk about, you should wake up early in the morning. I'm not that wake up in the morning person. I think part of everybody becoming the hero of their own story is to learn what they can do themselves that is authentic and heroic to themselves. Because if you're doing something just because you think somebody else wants you to do it or says you should do it, and it's not authentic to you, it's not going to work. So what's authentic to me is all these little pieces of paper on my bulletin board that say all the different things that matter to me. And so that's where I see myself in 10 years. And I would like to think that I'm getting closer to that goal. I think I'm on the way.
We are believing with you, Reverend Tracey.
We truly are. And so in closing, we just want to ask you, all the people who are watching, we have a ton of people watching right now, so they may want to get in touch with you. So I know we talked a little bit about people finding you on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. But how else can people get in touch with you if they want to raise their frequency? Because I think the energy in this space is palatable. So I would want to know, how can we get in touch with you? How can we follow you? Where do you preach? I know you're a minister, so where can we follow you?
Well, actually, I am not preaching regularly right now. I'm always open to opportunities to speak or preach or anything, a venue that they might have. I absolutely love it. I am part of The Gathering, which is a womanist church in Dallas, Texas, online. I have preached there. You can follow me on Instagram at T67. You can follow me on Facebook at Tracey Anderson-Tellado. I'm there. You can slide into my DMs there if you want to talk to me. And I'm always open to meeting people and just chatting about whatever. I am also well, like I said, I have been part of the YWCA. I have been part of the Ministerial Alliance here in Corpus. Just all kinds of different things. I'm honestly not that hard to find. So, yeah, those are the three. I haven't done TikTok. I haven't done any of that other stuff yet. But those three: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can reach me on those.
Oh, TikTok. It's like every time I hear TikTok, I'm like, another thing I got to do. And then I haven't even gotten on TikTok and now everyone's on Clubhouse. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I'm not on that either. Apparently I'm not, I hear you have to be invited to be on Clubhouse.
Yeah, I'll invite you then. I just don't know.
Okay, because ain't nobody invited me. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can invite you. I'm on there, but I very rarely go on there. I know we have some friends who are very good at it, so they can teach us. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much, Reverend Tracey. We really appreciate your time, all your knowledge. I know we have completely extended the time of this show, but we want to thank you for the extension of your time with us, and the knowledge that we have gained is, I guess, invaluable. Like, I just thank you so much, not only for being a hero, but also for sharing so authentically with us today.
Well, thank y'all. I have so enjoyed this. This has been an amazing, you said interview, but I think it's just been like a really great conversation. And I have just enjoyed every single minute of it, because when you see me doing all this, you know I'm enjoying myself.
Okay.
And so I have thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it. And thank you so much for having me.
So glad. And Soraya also wants to say thank you. Thanks for hanging in there, Soraya.
My sweet sister.
Yes, I was going to say she's been here from the beginning. So
I love you.
And most definitely, thank you for being you. You inspire and you open others to the truth. Love you.
And
for
I love you right back, babe.
Watching and wondering, why am I reading everything? That's because this show is also a podcast. So some of our audience actually listens to this show. So we have to be aware and read everything that's happening here on the PowerUp Hero Show. Thank you, Reverend Tracey, and we will see you next time.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Megan!
Lisa, thank you for letting me ask that last question, because I need to know what the hacks are for beating the challenges when they come.
Let me tell you, Megan. So first of all, Reverend Tracey, okay?
Yes.
And the energy, I saw that energy virtually, because when we were preparing for her TED Talk, we did it all virtually. I hadn't met her in person.
Yeah.
And then here she shows up, and I didn't even tell you, Megan, the energy. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. You know when people say love at first sight? Like,
yes.
I know I have my loving husband, Mr. Wisner, love of my life, my everything. But there's something about Reverend Tracey. I'm just saying. Like,
yeah, I completely can see why you feel the way that you feel. I could listen, like this mentor Miyagi feeling that I get from sitting with her and listening to her. She has a lot to share, a lot of knowledge to share, a lot of wisdom. And I love, love, love how she just shows up as herself and doesn't care, you know, just be you, do what you do. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in trying to be who we think everybody else wants us to be, or who we think our social media needs to see, or what we think our brand needs to look like. And, you know, if you just show up as yourself, then all of the rest will take care of itself.
Yes. You know, like this whole thing, I think the way I feel right now, it was like a little bit of reclaiming my power, if I could say, my who-ness. And I mean, pardon me, but shutting down the haters, right? So I really feel like this entire show, we're going to bring in the matrix, right? So let's think about the whole matrix and thinking about ourselves, freeing ourselves and detaching ourselves from this system of feeling like every single day we have to live up to somebody's expectations. And so I feel like that's what Reverend Tracey represents, right? Freeing ourselves from other people's vision of ourselves, not being victims, right? And you know, one thing we didn't ask her, Megan, was she has had a global experience, right? So we're not talking about somebody who just grew up in one town or one city, like globally, right? And so I would have loved to just vibe on that, right? The cultural context of the experience that she has had, and whether in the US she felt the same way as she felt in other countries.
Yep. I 100% agree. A lot of the things that I wrote down, I loved in her TED Talk, racial reckoning. Whoa, that was powerful. What are we going through right now? Oh, racial reckoning. Okay. Say no more. I understand completely what you're saying. Like, that's all you need to say. Yeah. And then I love the 3 walkaways. Intent doesn't matter. You could have the best intentions all day long, but if it made that other person feel a certain way, then it does not matter what your intent was, right? Yes. Do your own work. Believe us. Ooh, you want to be an ally. All you allies out there.
Yeah. Judging, believe, right? Don't try to paint a picture of how that didn't really happen. Believe. And you know what? Can I say this?
Yeah.
Even though your perception is different, that person is living the experience they're sharing with you. So have a feeling for the person, love the person enough to believe them that that's how they felt about the situation.
Yeah. I wanted to ask her too, like on the opposite end of the spectrum, do you ever do that to yourself where you're like, did that just happen? Or maybe they didn't mean it that way, or maybe what they were trying to do. And sometimes you walk away from the situation and what happened really did happen. And it really was a microaggression, or it really was an attack on you and your race or ethnicity. And you walk away like convincing yourself out of it.
You know, that happened. About that. You know, and it's already 2 hours, Megan. Oh my gosh. This is crazy. This is crazy. I have so much stuff written down that I'm just about to like literally, I'm going to unpack all this with you, because honestly, there was just so much. One thing I do want to mention, I had it on here, was, the whole point here was going back to ministry. And I think when you and I talk about ministry, right, and being in a space where we're not only being a guide for ourselves, right, so living our authentic selves, but being guides for ourselves, but how do we walk that path and guide others in that path as well, right, and see our lives as ministry. And we didn't talk about how did she decide that this was going to be her career, right?
Yep.
We didn't talk about that.
We need a part 2, I guess.
We definitely need a part 2. I definitely need to go and watch these Misfits on Christmas. Aww, that sounded like so much fun. And can I say this? One of the weaknesses was self-care versus selfishness, right? So your self-care should never feel like you're being selfish. Yep. So many golden nuggets here. We can go on and on. So much to unpack. But that's what a hero does. A hero shares boldly from the heart, and wouldn't have had it any other way. We do have some other fans who are watching. We have Raymond Chong. You know Raymond, Megan.
I do.
Bravo. And Carol, thank you so much, Carol Baldwin. We appreciate you watching the show. Love it all. You were great. I love it. Oh, and with that, Megan, we're about to end the show. And I want to thank you so much for being here with us and for being my co-host always and having me just hold space for all our heroes. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll see you guys next time.
Yep. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. And with that, our show has come to an end. I think one of the things that I took from the show for sure is for us to realize what's going on in our world, right? And we are responding positively. There is a shift in the world. People are waking up. And we definitely need to realize that something that is not serving you should not exist in your sphere of influence. So definitely want you to pay attention to what frequencies are you vibing with? How can you raise your own vibrations? How can you raise your own frequency by living your authentic life? If you want to find out more about the PowerUp hero we just interviewed, go to our podcast page, which is www.poweruphero.org. Or do you know a role model in our community who deserves to be featured on the show? The website is www.poweruphero.org. We are most excited because today we actually presented you with a guest who is part of our TEDx community. So I definitely want to show you the link to go if you want to watch the TED Talk that we just featured today. That website is www.tedxcolepark.com if you would like to watch the TED Talk that we just featured. And with that, I'm going to end the show by asking you to subscribe. So wherever you are watching, whether you're watching on YouTube, on Facebook, on Periscope, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, I definitely want to thank our Amazon friends for featuring our show and also featuring our PowerUp Hero books. Absolutely loving Amazon. Thank you. And Verbal just tagged us as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Ambassadors. So we want to thank you, Verbal, for that opportunity. And also we want to thank you for subscribing every way that you watch and you listen. So with that, we hope you are educated. We hope you are inspired. And we hope you are encouraged to be the hero of your story, not only for the community that you serve, but also for the teams that you're blessed to serve with, for your friends, for your families, for your career, but most importantly, for yourself. Because we believe that you need to be the hero of your story. You need to pour into your cup before you're able to pour and serve with your overflow. Thank you, and I hope you make today a powered up day. Bye.